Greetings everyone, I'm Mar. Once again, this is my opinion. Now we are moving on to episode 6 of season 4 of Everybody Loves Raymond. And it will be the first episode on disc 2, by the way. It is The Sister. And in this episode, we finally meet Debra's occasionally alluded to, but so far unseen sister, Jennifer. Her older sister, by the way. And she has some surprising news. Episode begins with Debra reminding Ray, someone's coming over. Ray, trying to act like, okay, I know someone's coming. He's really being in on it. Looks like he does kind of remember a little bit. And it turns out it's Debra's sister. Now, she doesn't go as over the top as she has in previous ones, but she's excited to see her sister because she hasn't seen her in 2 years. And it seems that in the last couple of years, they haven't seen each other that much. It's usually just like, hi, Deb. Bye, Deb. And Debra doesn't like that. So she's hoping that her sister stays for a couple days. She shows up, greets the kids and all that. Ray's a little surprised because the last time he saw her, he says she smelled. And this time she's normal. And we find out why right away. Because Jennifer, played in this episode by Ashley Crowe, is becoming a nun. And of course, everyone is surprised in their own way. Debra's like, no, you're not becoming a nun. Yep. I'm going to be going to Africa. Ray like, you got to get a shot for that. And from the get-go, from there on, throughout the episode, everybody starts treating Jennifer a little differently once they hear that little caveat that she is becoming a nun. And it's their own ways. Robert and Ray are both like, oh. They start doing some pop culture references like the singing nun. Dominica, nika, 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 the hills are alive. With the sound of music. And there's even a joke later on involving that. Of course, Frank, being polite and all that. Then he has to go and ask a question at dinner. Marie going all out, making a cake shaped like a cross. And then, of course, trying to go, oh, that's not appropriate, Debra. It's like, Marie, I know you like to kiss butt and try to be morally superior in certain situations, but you're forgetting Jennifer is still Debra's sister. If Debra has a little issue about her sister becoming a nun and wants to say it and get around to it, she is able to do that, especially. And if you want to be judgmental and jump in, there's the door. This is definitely one of those episodes where you really want to see Marie thrown out of the door. More so if you don't like her as a character. But it's how she is, and it seems like it's also one of those little things like, oh, so Debra's older sister's becoming a nun. Ooh, it's time to be petty. Especially petty with the cake. Ray is trying to be supportive of everything, but doesn't really have a lot to do. This is definitely a Debra-centered episode, and she's the one that gets the big payoff at the end where she and her sister have the little heart-to-heart up in the bedroom where they're talking, eating chocolate. And Debra gets out her frustrations, and the whole reason she has been a little off throughout it is that she's wanted a good relationship with her sister, and ever since college, they haven't really had that. Debra, she met Ray, settled down there, had the kids, but it's just like Jennifer's been going from there to there to there to there, and only been seeing her loosely, and it's like that's not the type of relationship she wanted. Like, she brings up Ray and Robert, she mentions all the stuff, them blaming their parents for everything, their little spats, never ends for Raymond. All that stuff. But at least they have each other. Despite all their bickerings and their disagreements, they love each other and they're real brothers. Whereas Debra and Jennifer, they don't really have that at this point. And at the end of this, they do come to an understanding that, hey, we're still there for each other and all that. It's just that I'm becoming a nun, and that's going to be my life thing. I've known for a while that this is the goal I want. It's not a spur-of-the-moment decision like my other things, like living in the commune where we grew vegetables naked, or dating the Who and other stuff like that, which those are a couple things that are mentioned at other points in the episode. But it is something that, she eventually figured this is my calling. Which it seems, from what I've gathered by reading and looking online, for those who go into religion and, be priests, imams, nuns, whatever word you want to plug in there, they seem to have a calling for it, which sometimes the calling is a little bit and they find out, yeah, this is not the calling I need, and then other times they go ahead. Like Jennifer said, she's known for over a year, so it looks like she's really into it. And who knows, maybe her time in Zaire might show, yeah, this wasn't the thing for me. Like, as a little aside, Peter Boyle himself at one point was training to be, I believe, a monk. And of course, obviously, he didn't go through with it because he saw it wasn't for him and he got into acting instead. Who knows? Jennifer, that might be the case, but the thing is, if I remember correctly, we never hear her mentioned again, which is a shame because there's still 5 more seasons. She could have had a small role at least, but nope, no more Jennifer. And I think part of that is they'd have to get Ashley Crow back, and who knows, maybe they weren't able to get her back. But she does a pretty good job playing Jennifer. You do believe she is Debra's sister, but they have had an estrangement. But with that last scene of them going in their heart-to-heart, you definitely believe that there is something there. Other things that Ashley's been in, as a side, she played Janice in The Good Son, a movie I used to watch a lot as a kid. Beatrice in episodes of As the World Turns, and Sandra in Heroes. Those seem to be her bigger roles, but I'll always know her from this one. And of course from Good Son, but I think she's a more minor character in that one. Funny thing is, even though Patricia Heaton plays a younger sister in real life, Ashley is 2 years younger than Patricia Heaton. Nice little role thing there, but that's the same with the Barones, because technically Ray's older than Brad. One moment where Jennifer and Robert are having their little conversation. Robert mentions a fact we hadn't heard of before involving Ray and Debra's wedding, where I guess Robert had a little bit too much champagne and then he fainted and fell into the wedding cake. Which I would hope that was after it was cut, because if that was before it was cut, it's like, you think that's something that would have been mentioned before, or at least in passing in the wedding episode, but it's small enough a detail that you can understand why it wasn't mentioned before, and it doesn't really cause any things. It's just like a weird little thing to try to imagine the wedding as a whole with all the details. There is a deleted scene. It doesn't really have a lot going on with it, but it takes place right before the beginning of the episode proper, and it's Ray coming down, asking what's for breakfast, and he's disappointed that it's just cornflakes. And of course he's trying to pull his usual thing, "Aw." And Debra, of course, about to get into him, and then Ray's like, no, we just need your smile. That's all I need for breakfast," and then goes to eat the cornflakes, and then that's when the episode proper comes in. Which you can kind of tell there was probably something beforehand when the episode begins, but it's also written in a way that we, the audience, are coming into this conversation in the middle of it, which is a typical writing device usually for storytelling, and here we see it at play in a sitcom. It works. And there's not really much going on with that conversation that we need to have seen it to understand what's going on. It's not like moments in a lot of these episodes when you watch them in syndication where you kind of come in and go, what? Like in an episode that's going to involve Jennifer and Debra's parents later on down the line, which I will mention that one when we come to it. But it's like, really? Is there information that I should have known beforehand? That one's a little more jarring. Well, all around, this is another fun episode. Nice to see Debra's sister finally, even though it's a one-off, get a little bit more understanding of Debra's childhood. See that family squabbling and resentment is not just in the Barone side. There is a little bit of it on Debra's side, although not a lot. They do actually come out and state that her father does drink a lot. That's one thing that Jennifer drops. And of course we see that Jennifer is going to pray for her in her line of work. We definitely see the obvious reactions from everybody when they find out that she is a nun. And then of course Ray, "I lied half naked to a nun." It's just a fun episode. It's not going to make my favorites lists, but it's not one that I would put on my least favorite list either. It's in the middle, adequate one. Definitely one. If you want to show someone an episode about Debra, this is definitely one to show them. That moment where Ray does the thing with his shirt, Dominica, that did end up in the 6 years tribute that they did at the end of season 6. That's how I first saw that, and then when I saw this episode, I'm like, oh, so that's where that came from. The wonders of watching the show in syndication and then later marathoning them when they hit DVD. Yep. And then next time, according to this, we're going to get an episode that I usually skip, and it's going to be the proper introduction to the title character, Raymond's cousin Gerard. See you next time, guys. If you enjoyed the episode, be sure to like, always subscribe, and if you want to support the channel, join the Patreon down below. With how YouTube has been doing stuff to me, I need that support even more. And if you want to request videos, that's one of the perks of joining the Patreon. You get to request a video on the basic one. And if you just want to do a one-off, there's always the PayPal link down below. Till next time, guys.